seeing we see those difficulties.
This
The
is a
strong
live
dollar is a challenge for
update
some
of
countries,
the
but we
Fed
have it,
meeting.
and we take all of that into account in our models. We think about the spillovers
Comment,
and that sort of
subscribe,
thing.
like. It's
Here in the
free.
United States, we have a strong
Free
economy,
subscription.
and we have an economy where inflation is running at 5%. Core PCE inflation, which is a really good indicator of what's going on for us, is the way we see it, is running at 5.1% on a 12-month basis, and sort of similar to that on a 3, 6, and 9-month basis. So we know that we need to use our tools to get inflation under control. The world's not going to be better off if we fail to do that. That's a task we need to do. Price stability,
Pay attention
stability
to the
in the
language.
United States is a good thing for the global economy over a long period of time. Price stability is the kind of thing that pays dividends for our economy for decades, hopefully. Even though it may be difficult to get it back, getting it back is something that provides value to the people we serve for
Whoa, pay
the long
attention to
run.
the Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P. It's all a dump throughout the meeting.
Thank you. The Fed has acknowledged in the past that the tools that you have don't affect things like energy and food prices that stem from some of those conflicts overseas, and they're some of the biggest pain points for consumers. So as you pursue the current path that you've outlined, is there a risk that some of those prices simply don't come down?
So we don't directly affect, for the most part, food and energy prices, but the demand channel does affect them just at the margin. The thing about the United States is that we also have in many other jurisdictions, the principal problem really is energy. In the United States, we also have a demand issue. We've got an imbalance between demand and supply, which you see in many parts of the economy. So our tools are well suited to work on that problem, and that's what we're doing. You're right, though. We don't, the price of oil is set globally, and it's not something we can affect. I think by the actions that
So
we
it
take,
is a
though,
firm
we
Fed did
help
raise
keep,
it by 0.75%.
longer-term inflation expectations
What's for
anchored,
December, though?
and keep
The
the
people
public
wanna know
believing
what's
in
for
2%
December.
inflation by the things that we do, even in
Are we
times
gonna get to
when
2% or not?
energy is part of the story of why inflation is high.
I personally think we're way off. I have a question. Except
Hi,
I'm
Chair
not
Powell,
in the
Janelle
meeting.
Marte with Bloomberg. So the Fed is facing 2 more ethics-related incidents with the revision of the financial statements from President Bostic and President Bullard speaking at a closed event. So some senators, like Elizabeth Warren, are saying that this is a sign of
Comment,
greater
subscribe,
ethics problems at the Fed. Could you talk about what this does to the public's trust in the bank and what the Fed is doing to prevent this kind of behavior from becoming
Great question.
common?
Great
Sure.
question.
So
Ding,
you're
ding,
right.
ding, ding, ding.
The public's trust is really the Fed's and any central bank's most important asset. And anytime one of us, one of the policymakers, violates or falls short of those rules, we do risk undermining that trust, and we take that very seriously. We do. So at the beginning of our meeting yesterday, actually, we had a committee discussion of the full committee on the importance of holding ourselves individually and collectively accountable for knowing and following the high standard that's set out in our existing rules with respect to both personal investment activities and
Slides,
external
as Powell
communications.
says, too early to pause
And
rate hikes.
we've taken a number of steps, and I would just say we do understand how important those issues are. I would say that our new investment program that
Pay
we
attention
have
to the language.
is up now and running, and actually it was through that the problems with President Bostic's disclosures were discovered when he filed his new disclosures. That's, we now have a central group here at the Board of Governors that looks into disclosures and follows them and approves people's disclosures and also all of their trades. Any trade anyone has to make who's covered has to be pre-approved. And there's a lag. It has to be pre-approved 45 days before it happens, so there's no ability to game market. So it's a really good system. It worked here. And I think we all said to each other yesterday morning, we recommitted to each other and to this institution to hold ourselves to the highest standards and avoid these problems.
Do you have an update on the investigations that are pending?
I don't. So, as you know, I referred the matter concerning President Bostic to the Inspector General. And once that happens, I don't discuss it with the Inspector General or with anybody. It's just the Inspector General has He has the ability to do investigations. We don't really have that. So that's what he's doing.
Okay. That's a serious matter.
Michael McKee from Bloomberg Television and Radio. Earlier this year, you touted the 3-month bill yield out to 18 months as the yield curve with 100% explanatory power. And you said, quote, if it's inverted, that means the Fed's going to cut, which means the economy is weak. That curve is only 2 basis points away from inversion now. So I'm wondering why you are so confident that you have not over-tightened, particularly given that rates work with a lag.
Credit cards.
Well, so we do
Lending
monitor
money,
the
borrowing
near-term,
money is at an
forward
all-time
spread.
high.
You're right, and that's been
Common
our preferred
subscribe
measure. We
like.
think it, just empirically, it dominates the ones that people tend to look at,
How
which
does
is
this
2s,
affect
10s,
you?
and things like that. So it's not inverted, and also you have to look at why things, why the rate curve is doing what it's doing. It can be doing that because it expects cuts or because it expects inflation to come down.
I
In this
expect
case,
a lot
if you're in a
of
situation
cuts.
where the
Look at the
markets
job market.
are pricing in significant declines in inflation, that's going
Is
to
it
affect
drastically
the forward
declining
curve.
from
So,
Walmart
yes, we
to
monitor
Target,
it.
from
You're
the
right.
retailers? No
and,
one's spending any money. Common
what I'm
subscribe
saying.
like. Pal.
Follow up. You also said
telling the
several
truth
meetings
here?
ago that the risk of doing too little outweighed the risk of doing too much. Is what you're trying to tell us today is that that risk assessment has changed a little bit?
Well, what's happened is time has passed and we've raised interest rates by 375 basis points. I would not change a word in that statement, though. I think until we
Oh,
get
pay
inflation
attention to the
down,
language. It means it's tight.
you'll be hearing that from me.
Quantitative
Again,
QT.
if
Quantitative
if we
tightening.
over tighten, and we don't want to, we want to get this exactly right. But if we over tighten, then we have the ability with our tools, which are powerful, to, as we showed at the beginning of the pandemic episode, we can support economic activity strongly if that happens, if that's necessary. On the other hand, if you make the mistake in the other direction and you let this drag on, then it's a year or two down the road and you're realizing inflation behaving the way it can, you're realizing that you didn't actually get